greatest things in life all start with a challenge.
You must accept that everything is hard before it gets easy.
Everything you want in life begins with a hard path.
Welcome to the Choose Hard podcast. I'm your host, Cody McBroom, the founder of Tailored Coaching Method, and I'm excited to have you here today because you are about to get better. This is the first podcast I've recorded in 2025, actually. As you're listening to this, if you're listening to it right away when it drops, I mean, there has been at least 2 weeks, if not 3, that an episode hasn't aired. And so I'm excited to record, and that's not like me. I pride myself on consistency, and I've been doing this podcast thing a long time, so there's not that many weeks that I miss, period. Not even just 1 week, let alone multiple in a row. But 2025 hit me like a freight train in some crazy ways, but in all ways good. Even the crazy and the stressful things that have happened, they have opened my eyes and helped me delegate and systemize and work through troubles and so on and so forth. So I'm really excited about today's topic, and I'm really excited about 2025. 2025 for me has been insane. It is, what is today? Today is the 15th as I'm recording this. So we're 15 days in. And it has been wild, but it has been already a year of growth, a year of so much hope and faith for the future, and just so much foresight into the success we're going to see as a company, as a family, as an individual myself. Like I'm fired up. I am extremely fired up about 2025. It's going to be an amazing year. And part of the reason it's going to be an amazing year is because 2024 was a year of a lot of, we'll just say trials and tribulations, right? But it was more than anything, a lot of me planting seeds and trying to build foundations in different areas of my life. And so much of that stems from what I'm about to talk about today. And I think this topic that I'm going to cover today is going to be something that for some of you might open your eyes so much more than you realized, so much more than you thought a podcast could do, so much more than anything you're working on right now, because this is the thing you need to be working on that you don't realize you need to be working on. And I know I'm talking this episode up a lot, but it actually wasn't on my list. I have an agenda of what needs to be recorded. Some episodes that already have been recorded that we're delaying from going out for certain reasons. Like there's a calendar to this, right? The content strategy behind the podcast. And this one kind of cut the line because it was per request, actually. And so today, what I'm going to talk about is identity and standards. And so this topic is something I love talking about because it influences every area of your life. It is one of the most influential topics to cover in regards to success as a whole. And so when we're looking at being a better individual for your marriage and family, for your business and career, for your clientele, as if you're a coach, for your coach, if you're a client, for your friends, or for anything, for yourself, right? For your fitness and nutrition, especially. Identity and standards, personal identity and personal standards are really what set the foundation for who you are and who you are deciding to become, and the standards you are going to live by and be held accountable to so that you can operate in the way you want to operate. You can operate as your best self. You can operate as the person you know you could be, you know you want to be, and you have yet to become. And so there's going to be some of you listening to this today that are going to finally understand what you need to do, the questions you need to ask, and the process you need to go through in order to stop playing small and living the way you're living and start playing big and becoming who you need to become so you can live the way you desire living. Okay? And again, actually, I'm gonna do a shameless plug for the Tailored Coaching Collective because that's how this came about. This is, I'm looking, if you're watching this podcast on YouTube or Spotify, I'm looking at my laptop right now because I have slides. I have literal slides because you're getting a taste of what the Tailored Coaching Collective is. So the Tailored Coaching Collective is a membership site that we have for our clients and for anybody like you who is a listener that likes consuming this kind of content, but you want to listen and watch the presentation go down live and be able to ask questions afterwards. And then be able to look at, there's probably like 40 hours of content on there now between the nutrition course, the 10-module nutrition course. I think it's like a 6 or 7-module strength training course, the 5-module supplement course from Dr. Brandon Roberts, the live calls that myself and Ariel do. There's so much content in there. So it's pretty wild. If you're a client of ours, if you're a training and nutrition client or just a nutrition client of ours, and you're working with us at Taylor Coach Method, you get access to this. It's just part of your membership. And it's one of the most beneficial things. And if you haven't been taking advantage of it, please do. If you are not a client with us, but you want to see what this is all about, there's no long-term commitment to it. And it's literally $49 a month. People pay, honestly, like legitimately a minimum $500, if not thousands of dollars to hire speakers, myself, or even other speakers that are much better in my opinion. But obviously I'm looking up to some of these speakers that get hired, but I've even been hired for so much more than $49 a month. It's wild. But that's not why we do it. We do it because we want to provide extra value to our clients. And there's so many people who aren't our clients that listen to this podcast that need to be in there. So I want to encourage you, click the link in the description. I'll put it in there. You can also check it out on my Instagram. There's always a link in my bio for this, but it's called the Tailored Coaching Collective, and is where we do these live workshops every other week. So there's 2 a month that you get for $49 a month. This was one of them. And I have a specific client. Shout out to you. I'm not going to name drop you just in case you don't want to be, but she is somebody that works, I'll just say has an important role at a really large company, corporation that you definitely know the name of. It's a very influential company in the United States. And she watched this after me poking her. And I said, hey, you got to watch this. Based on what we're having these coaching calls about, based on your goals and where you're kind of working, the things you're working through, like you got to watch this. You got to watch it. I kept poking her. She finally went and watched it during her like Christmas break. She took 4 pages of notes and texted me that it was one of the best trainings that she's ever watched. And she has done executive trainings with this company that is a big company. I'm not going to name drop them either. And she's never seen anything like this, which was extremely humbling. And I don't say that to impress you, but to impress upon you that, 1, that's the kind of stuff you get for $49 a month. Go check it out. But 2, that's what you're getting today in this podcast, because I'm literally doing a podcast on the presentation I gave. I did a full presentation live on identity and standards, personal identity and personal standards. And now I am literally going to go through the slide deck and I'm going to deliver it to you on this podcast, because I think this is the most important thing that you can dive into at the beginning of 2025. And it is still the 15th, which means if you've gotten this far with your goals, you already beat everybody who stopped on the second Friday of the month, which is National Quitters Day, apparently. I found that out this year. But if you're somebody who did quit your goals, you set New Year's resolutions and you already quit. You set New Year's resolutions and you didn't even get started. You set New Year's resolutions and you're starting to kind of fade away with them. You never even set New Year's resolutions. It doesn't matter. This is important because we're still in the first month of the year, so much time left. And these are the things that if you change these things, because these are traits and habits and characteristics and viewpoints that you want to live by and people to see you as, if you change these things, your ability to accomplish goals dramatically change going forward. I promise you that. Okay, so we're going to dive into this. Again, this is personal identity and standards. So first and foremost, let's define standards. Let's define identity. Identity is the fact of being who or what a person or thing is. So if we look at the definition, literally, because this is the literal definition of identity from Google, like literal definition, the fact or being who or what a person or thing is. Ask yourself this to start this out. You can even pause it. I'll pause for a sec so you can think. Who are you? How do you define yourself? What do you define yourself as or by? Really sit on that. See, there's a lot of people who will answer that as, I honestly always have until I had somebody challenge me on it. And that's that I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a man of God, I'm a coach, I'm an entrepreneur. Yeah, like I name these things, right? Outside of a man of God, which could be determined, could be looked at as more of a true identity, because it's a way of being, it's a way of living. Everything else I said was roles. They're all roles. The fact of being who or what a person or thing is. So the fact is that my identity is not father, husband, coach, entrepreneur. Those are my roles. My identity is who I am as a person. I can see this differently now because I am a man of faith, for example. I am a man of discipline, for example. I am a man of grace because I don't believe in holding grudges. It's a waste of breath and a waste of time. Right? Those are traits and characteristics that define who I am to others. People don't love, trust, or follow me because I'm a father, husband, coach, entrepreneur. They might relate to me because of those roles, might be roles in their life as well, but they know, like, and trust me because I'm a trustworthy person. I'm a factual person. I'm a disciplined person, and maybe they desire to be more disciplined themselves. See where I'm going with this? These are identities, right? So when we understand what our identity really is, we begin to change the way we show up and operate day to day in our conversations, in our work, in our workouts, in our self-talk, because our identity is not our roles. Our identity is the way we live and how people can actually define who we are and what we do and how we do it. So the first thing we need to understand when we start trying to shape or shift our identity is that our words are our beliefs. Your words equal your beliefs, right? And this is factual based on even research. So research suggests that how you define yourself will lead to either greater levels of success or failure. So you truly do choose to succeed or to fail, because how you define yourself determines your capability of accomplishing something or not. So when we start to understand that our words become our beliefs, we can start to shift our words, change our words so that we can shift and shape our beliefs, primarily our self-belief. If I am going into a new journey, if I'm going into a new fitness journey this year in 2024, and I do not believe that I am a disciplined person, I am going to define myself as an undisciplined person. Well, an undisciplined person is going to have a very tough time transforming their body, right? Absolutely. But that's a predetermined story and definition of who you are as a person. You're proclaiming your identity is to be undisciplined, but that's not true, because discipline is a trait that you develop through doing things. So nobody is disciplined. One, at first, we're not disciplined. And two, in any new endeavor that any person tries to acquire, they are not disciplined. Discipline comes from trying to do something you're not comfortable doing or you are unaware of how to do, right? Until it becomes a habit, you are leaning on discipline. And then eventually it becomes habitual. That's the whole point. But the more we tell ourselves we are not disciplined, the less likely it is that we are going to become disciplined and accomplish the things we need to accomplish through the act of possessing discipline as a trait. Okay, so again, research suggests that how you define yourself will lead to either greater levels of success or failure, because you truly do choose whether or not you succeed or fail. And this is why affirmations are very, very important. So writing in your journal, and in fact, shameless plug again, tailoredcoachingmethod.shop. You can get this at the merch store. This is our tailored journal. And I'm just going to read this because it's very relative to what I'm talking about right here. We have different things in here. One of them is a focus word. The purpose of a focus word set for each day is to create a word that defines your day. So if I'm going to act on discipline today, if I want to basically prophesy on the day or proclaim my attitude or proclaim my ability or my confidence or anything like that, right? I need to have a focus word. So my focus word of today, and taking time to think on it, might be productivity. If it's productivity, I'm going to work hard on eliminating distractions, staying disciplined, and getting shit done. Because while I am thinking of my focus word, I am thinking about my day, and I determine my focus word based on what I need to do most. Now I'm putting that seed in my head, and that is going to be my day's identity in a way, right? And then halfway through the page, we have affirmations. I am blank, I will blank. I am a disciplined individual. I will lose weight and stick to the plan by leaning on my own self-discipline. Even if I don't feel confident about that statement yet, I will start writing that in, right? So again, your words determine your beliefs, and your beliefs shape the success you're going to have. And this is proven by research. Now, current identity statements that might be holding you back. This is where we look at the opposite side of this spectrum. Don't identify with the following statements, okay? I'm going to say 4 things. I want you to really, really consider removing these from your vocabulary entirely and starting to really work hard to avoid saying them. Number 1, it's too hard. Number 2, I'll probably fail. Number 3, I'll never be able to blank. Number 4, I just wasn't meant to be good at blank. See, the more we say it's too hard, the harder it becomes, right? It's like the elephant in the room, right? Or the pink elephant phrase. Once you know it's there, you can't not know it's there. That's what's so funny about the elephant in the room. It's like the awkward thing that everybody knows is in the room. We don't want to acknowledge it, but we can't not, because once we identify that it's there, we cannot stop thinking about it, right? So once you identify something as hard, guess what? You screwed yourself. It becomes hard. Now, I shouldn't say you screwed yourself, because at the end of the day, we all do this. Even I do this. But as soon as you say it's too hard, start breaking down why you can still accomplish it and why doing hard things, choosing hard things, is going to benefit you long term. That is part of the reason why we use that tagline, choose hard, so much, is because when I start saying choose hard in a moment where something's hard, it allows me to create a positive out of a normally negative situation. This is hard. I don't want to do it. I'm lacking confidence in my ability to accomplish it. Therefore, I'm going to say I'm going to do it because of that. I'm going to choose hard. And because I'm choosing hard and I'm doing the thing I don't want to do and I think is difficult and I'm lacking the confidence to do, I will become a more confident person. I will become a more capable person. I will become a more open-minded person. I will become a more disciplined and internally motivated person, which means self-motivation. I don't need to rely on others to accomplish other things in my life. This will make me better. Yeah, it's hard, but guess what? It's a good thing. It's hard. It's not too hard. Okay? I'll probably fail. Why on earth would you say that? Because you're human. That's why. But we have to stop that. The more we say I'll probably fail, the more likely it is that you will fail. These self-proclaiming statements create your beliefs. The unfortunate side is that your beliefs, when you use these terms too much and you say these things too much, it's not self-belief, it's self-doubt. You're believing in a storyline that is failure because you're proclaiming it's too hard and that you'll probably fail. I'll never be able to blank. Why? Most people say I'll never be able to blank because of pre-existing doubts, insecurities, and failures from the past that are dictating their thoughts of the future. And that is not a good thing. That is something that is going to be a self-limiting belief. That self-limiting belief is going to stop you from moving forward because you're applying this, and this is the crazy part, you're applying this failure from a different situation in a different time to a current situation for a future result you're after. That could be completely different. Maybe the only thing similar is that it's new and you've never done it before. But here's the crazy part. That's very normal. And people listening, you're probably going, yeah, I know, I've done that. The thing you don't know and realize that you've done as well is the same thing on the opposite side of the spectrum. You've done hard things that did develop confidence, certainty, discipline, risk-taking, like a lot of things. Time, effort, patience, consistency. And you forget about those things in the moments. And so instead of me saying, I'll never be able to blank, or it's too hard, or I'll probably fail because I'm leaning on past failures, I want you to start reframing it and leaning on past successes next time you accidentally say these things. To shift your identity statements and remove these self-limiting proclamations, essentially, these self-limiting beliefs in your mind, you need to, as soon as you start thinking of them, think of the things that you did well, that you succeeded with, that were hard and you did anyway. Right? If you're a mother listening to this, you did some stuff that is way harder. The patience it takes to just go through pregnancy? What? And you're worried about a 12-week diet? Come on. Number one, if you've never worked with us, shameless plug, then maybe you did a miserable diet. Maybe it wasn't the best diet. But nonetheless, the amount of characteristics and traits you developed going through pregnancy, birth, and parenting, there is so much carryover into the goals that you have for 2025. You need to lean on those, not your past failures. You lean on the one time you tried to diet and failed, and that's creating self-limiting beliefs instead of leaning on the 9 months of pregnancy and however old your kids are of parenting that can create so much self-belief that leads to so much more success in your life. And the last one, I just wasn't meant to be good at blank. That's just straight up not true. But see how these are current identity statements in a lot of people. You very rarely hear people say the proper verses of these. So these are current identity statements that create self-limiting beliefs. And the easiest way to shift from those and move into what I said on the other side of this, right? Instead of proclaiming your failure or referring back to failures, but shifting towards confidence and referring back to past successes that can absolutely apply to what you're going through and what you're trying to accomplish right now, you have to ask yourself, is that really true? It's too hard. Is that really true? Too hard? That's relative. What do you mean? Is it impossible? No. Okay. It's too hard, so it's too hard. It's too hard implies that it's impossible. It's hard. That's okay. That's a good thing if you reframe it. I'll probably fail. Is that really true? How do you know that? I'll never be able to blank. Why not? Is that really true? How do you know that? And if the answer is yes, you say, how do you know that? It's too hard. Is that really true? Yes. How do you know that? Because my goal is to play in the NBA and I'm already 32 years old, never played basketball, and I'm only 5'9". You're right. That's too hard. That's not a realistic goal. But if you go through this framework and you ask yourself, is that really true? Most of the time the answer is no. 99.9% of the time. And if it is, it means that your goal is unrealistic. And it's probably not something that is meaningful or going to create fulfillment in your life anyway. And so when we shift these and stop saying those, we need to change those phrases. So we start with, it's too hard. Is that really true? Well, no, it's not. Okay. How do we reframe this? It'll get easier with time. You go from it's too hard to it'll get easier with time. That is very true. Is that really true? Yes, it absolutely is, because everything does. Okay? You go from I'll probably fail. Is that really true? No. I'll succeed if I stick with it. You're right. You might even fail at first. It might be really hard, but eventually it'll get easier over time and you'll succeed if you stick with it. I'll never be able to blank. Is that really true? Well, no, I don't know that. Okay, so we switch it. I'll eventually be able to blank. I'll never be able to. I'll eventually be able to. Simple. And the last one, I just wasn't meant to be good at blank. Is that really true? No, you have no evidence of it. I can be good at blank if I work at it. See, self-belief, confidence, certainty in your own actions, in what you can accomplish, it comes from proof. Proof is results. Results come from actions done repetitively over time, and you see a result from it. You either do it well and do it consistent and you get a result, or you don't do it at all and you get a result. So if you don't take action, you don't have a result. And the only thing that you can prove is true is that you haven't followed through in the past. But just because you haven't followed through in the past doesn't mean you can't follow through in the future. Doesn't mean you can't follow through this time. And so when we reframe it, we can see that it'll get easier with time. You will succeed if you stick with it. You'll eventually be able to do the thing, and you can be good at it if you work at it. All of those things are very true. And if we ask ourselves, is that really true? The answer is definitely yes. Plain and simple. But again, these are identity statements. Now, there's certain anchor words, I would call them, that essentially attach themselves to these kind of statements. And there's countless more that are going to go through your head, right? And these anchor words are what we need to shift more than anything, right? One of them might surprise you, right? A lot of times people say, don't say can't, right? Say do, right? Try, what is the Yoda quote? Do not try. Did I have it in here? No, I didn't. Do not try, but do, or something like that. I don't know. Yoda talks like backwards in Pig Latin or something, so I'm screwing that up for all the Star Wars nerds. Sorry. But these anchor words, right? We have to really think about the different things we say. And part of creating and establishing a really strong identity is speaking conviction into yourself and speaking with truth and authenticity. So, for example, something that you can easily do is start to say do not instead of cannot, right? Because if you cannot do something, you are actually challenging your capabilities of accomplishing it. If you say, I will not, or I do not do the thing, you are actually proclaiming that you are choosing not to. And as small as that may seem, choosing not to is a stronger identity statement, and it's a stronger identity builder than cannot ever will be. And a lot of times we do this by mistake. We do this because we don't want to. We just say, oh, I can't do it today. No, you won't do it today because you're not prioritizing it. Somebody asks you to do something with them. Somebody asks you to go out, or somebody asks you if you want to do X, Y, Z, and you make an excuse, right? Tell me how making an excuse and lying is an appropriate standard and an appropriate thing to do. Because you don't want them to feel bad? I'd have you consider that they'd respect you more if you were just honest, and you'd respect yourself more if you were honest. So instead of saying, oh, I can't because I got this thing and blah, 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 just say, hey, nah, not tomorrow. No, I'm not going to do it this time. I'm prioritizing my family. I mean, the amount of times I've said no to things because I have work or I want to spend time with my girls, my wife and daughter, I don't even have fingers to count or toes. People don't get mad at me. And my first initial reaction is like, oh, I got to think of an excuse. What can I say? Oh, I have this appointment, or I want to think of something. But instead I'm like, hey, no, I'm working late because I want to. I love what I do for a living. Hey, no, like I'm going to take the girls out again this weekend because that's my favorite thing to do, and that's what I prioritize. You know, and I tell people on the front end, like my time is very limited because I prioritize my business and my wife and daughter over everything, because those are the two most important things for me in my life. But that develops respect from others, and that respect from others fuels my own identity, right? Because I identify as somebody who is honest and transparent and authentic. I am who I am. I'm always going to speak the truth, and it's going to be my truth. I don't have to agree with people. They don't have to agree with me. We don't have to share the same beliefs. We don't have to share the same values. I just speak mine because they are true to me. That's part of who I am. And I have a strong identity statement because of it, right? And so other people respect that as well, even if they don't have the same identity or have the same beliefs or values or priorities in their life. It doesn't matter. A really good frame to think about with this that I heard from somebody else that I really, really love is next time you're going to do something, whether it is say yes to somebody, it's to go out and do something, or it's literally like hitting snooze or going to the gym or meal prepping, ask yourself, will I respect myself more or less after making this decision? That one's good. If you do that, the amount of times you're going to be able to take action on things that lead you to your goals or build your identity and fuel a higher set of standards and expectations for you to live by, I mean, it's endless. It's infinite, because that is exactly the yes or no decision you have to make on a day-to-day basis to build more self-belief, build more self-respect and confidence, and love who you are as a person, to build a stronger identity and a higher set of standards to live by. If I do this, will I respect myself more or less? If the answer is less, don't do it. If I let this slide at work, will I respect myself more or less? If I don't follow through with what I committed to blank person with, will I respect myself more or less? If I stop on the treadmill at 38 minutes instead of 40 because I really want to quit right now, will I respect myself more or less? If I have an extra brownie tonight, will I respect myself more or less? The moment you attach self-respect to the decisions, the actions, and the things that you do, that is the moment you will become more of the person you want to become. And you will be on the direct path to becoming and living as the person you could live by as and want to become. So do not versus cannot. The cool part about these anchor words is there's actually research done on this. And the research is done on what's called an identity proclamation. So studies show that saying you do not will carry over for greater accomplishment because it's an I am statement. Okay, so by doing this, you're speaking with certainty to others potentially, but also to yourself. So for example, instead of me saying, and this is a small one, and it's important because you have to be in charge of the decisions you make. But if I'm at dinner with friends and the waiter comes by, and I don't know about you, but whenever I eat dinner and then I'm full. And the waiter comes by and's like, can I talk anybody into our chocolate cheesecake for dessert? And everybody's like, oh, no, I can't. I shouldn't. You're going to, or you're not going to? Like, change the way you say words. No, I don't do desserts. Plain and simple. No, I'm not going to do that. No, I cannot. Because if you say you cannot, it means that there's an external thing putting chains on you, locking you down, and making sure that you don't do it. You are abiding to somebody's rules. I don't know who this is. And if you're working with a coach, it's not the coach's rules, as long as it's not a great coach, because a great coach isn't going to force you to eat or not eat anything, and it's not going to guilt trip you for doing so. They're going to help you make decisions on your own. So in that moment, you say, I don't do desserts. I'm not going to. I'm deciding I don't want dessert. Like, it's that simple. Right? An example for me as well is drinking. I don't drink during the weekdays unless it's a very specific occasion. So unless I can determine that this is a special occasion, I don't drink during the weekdays. I didn't even drink on New Year's Eve, and it was a Wednesday. But I'll drink on a Saturday that has no holiday value or meaning to it. Why? Because I drink on Saturdays. It's not that I can't drink during the week. It's that I'm choosing not to. It's a lot easier for me to stick to my word and do what I want to do versus doing what I think I can't do. I know how to flexible diet. I know that I'm allowed to drink because nobody makes rules for me. I make rules for myself. And so the rule I'm making for myself is that I don't drink during the week. Why do I do that? Because it's easier for me to maintain the physique I want and stay healthy and stay productive in the morning at work if I don't drink. And therefore, I only want to drink in a very small amount per week. And that is reserved for my wife. I only drink at home with my wife. If I'm out at dinner, I have a rule. I'm not going to drink more than this. Like, set rules for yourself and have reasons why, and you will stick to those so much better than following a rubric that somebody else created that you could give two shits about. Plain and simple. So, identity proclamations. You need to start saying I do not versus I cannot. I'm not going to versus I can't do that. I shouldn't. No, you won't. It sounds kind of ridiculous and hardcore, but again, this is based on research. And another good example of these identity proclamations is what you speak over others. So not only are we trying to speak over ourselves and in our own mind so that our own thoughts and words begin to shape our identity, but we can also shape the identity of people around us. And I'd have you consider that that also has a big effect on you, because if you start speaking identity onto others that you care about, you are going to create an identity of a leader in your own mind. So if you have kids, speak identity onto kids. A child's identity is developed by the parents. What you speak over that child is what that child will believe in themselves. And the more you speak greatness into your child, the more greatness you will possess because you will feel like a leader. And when you see the fruits of your labor and the fruition of the word you speak over your child come true over time, my daughter's only 6. She's going to be 7 in a month and a half. It's crazy. She's gonna be 7 in a month and a half. And I'm already seeing some of the things come to life that me and my wife have spoke over her. And it takes time. But then once you start seeing it and you know why they're doing that, they're saying that, they're acting that way, because I literally spoke that over them intentionally. And I'm seeing it change them. That's a powerful thing, because as a parent, it means more than anything to you to create confidence in a child and create beauty and understanding and grace and whatever the things you're trying to speak over them, confidence, but it also does a lot for you in your own confidence and leadership. So there's a study on children's grades that shows, and I've used this study in a Choose Hard presentation and podcast as well, but kids being told you work so hard versus you are so smart resulted in grades going up or going down. And what that means is that they took these kids, they put them into 2 groups, and they looked at their grades, obviously, they told group A of the children that you worked so hard to get that grade. That group continued to get great grades. They actually excelled. So all these kids got great grades. They continued to excel, right? The group that they said, you're so smart, that group actually started to see a decline in their grades. So what does that tell us? It tells us that the word spoken over children matters. The word spoken over people matters. The word spoken in our mind personally matters. When you say you worked so hard, you actually earned it. So what does that tell you? What does that do for you? Well, if I worked so hard to get the A or get the paycheck or get the trophy or whatever it is, this is why having a first place trophy is very important. Because that tells me I worked hard to get that trophy. Not everybody gets this trophy. All the hard work in my practice, in my exercise, in my efforts, in my recovery, and all the intention I put into this sport got me a trophy. That tells me that I work hard, I win. I work hard, I get the result. I work hard, I get the reward. I work hard, I get insert the outcome. You're so smart implies that you possess something that you're out of control of. As adults, we can look at this and understand, well, I understand what creates intelligence, but a child doesn't. So a child being told you're so smart assumes that this is just, it's genetic. I was born with this is how it is. I'm smart, whatever. They didn't have to work so hard for it. There's no effort attached to the reward, and that's an issue. It doesn't fuel the right type of identity in that child. Now, if we look at normal people, and anybody listening to this can say this, are you more likely to practice, train, and then compete hard if you know only first place gets a trophy? But if you know you're going to compete on blank date and everybody who competes is going to get a trophy just for being out there, you are not going to take it nearly as serious. It's the same reason why people can literally try to lose weight, and the moment they pay money and have accountability, now they do really well. Was it because they were stuck? Well, yeah, they were stuck, but there was nothing wrong with them. They needed accountability. They needed somebody to speak belief into them. A lot of what we do at Tailored Coaching Method as our profession is speak belief into our clients so that they know they can do it too. And we do it in this way. If you are guaranteed to get a promotion and it's only about how much time you spend there, are you more or less likely to earn it, to work hard along the way? Less. There's plenty of research to support this too. If the only way you get a raise is if you outperform others, if you exceed expectations, if you do something that shows how much effort and how much you've excelled, that's the only way you get the bonus or the raise or the new position, then there's no time limit on it. You could get it in a month, you could get it in a year. It's all about your effort. That effort is going to translate into an identity of a hard worker, disciplined, motivated, work ethic, responsible, right? Patience, maybe as well. I think anything you work hard at is patience, but you're just going to gain some patience. But patience doing what? If I know, well, I'm going to get a raise after 2 years anyway, so I'm just going to clock in, clock out. That doesn't fuel your identity, right? So identity proclamations and understanding that what we say to ourselves and what we say to others and the positions we put ourselves in. Participate in career roles that allow you to be rewarded for your performance and your work ethic. Participate in events that give you a trophy if you complete blank or you win. That's how you grow and get better. Okay. Your identity will be a reflection of your environment. This is the external part of creating a new personal identity for yourself, right? And this means you got to audit your environment to avoid negative influences as much as you possibly can, right? Because remember, this is primarily subconscious. So what goes into your brain is subconscious on some levels and conscious on some levels. You consciously put yourself in a certain environment, but that unconscious, that subconscious information, content, consumption leads to an identity. This is why it's important to control the music you listen to, social media that you engage in and consume, the books and podcasts that you read or listen, the TV shows and movies you watch, your work, your gym, your stores, restaurants, bars, the environment you're in, your friends and family. You are in control of your own life. You are in control of your own success. You are in control of your own failures, and you are in control of your own identity. How you show up as an individual, how you see yourself as an individual. And the most important thing you can do is audit your environment and understand when you got to remove or limit. Sometimes it's eliminate, sometimes it's just limiting what's in your environment. Because you consciously put yourself in these environments, but your subconscious brain will start taking in things and adopt them as your identity if you don't step in and intervene to control that. Positive attitude equals positive outcomes. Research suggests that optimism, and this is quoted, research suggests that optimism characterized by positive expectations about the future is linked to resilience and adaptive coping strategies, which can contribute to greater success in various domains of life. So what does this mean? It means that if you have an optimistic point of view, which is a glass half full, not empty, you are going to be more positive about what you expect in the future. And this is going to create more resilience and adaptive coping strategies. Adaptive coping strategies are ways that you cope with struggles and discomfort along the way to make sure that you see through the journey you started and become successful. And so what we're really doing here is we're forcing a positive attitude on ourselves, right? And forcing optimism, because we're humans. There's gonna be time where we naturally just, subconsciously, it doesn't matter, we're just gonna be negative. There's also times where we are going to be pessimistic, and we are going to see the glass half empty, not full. We're going to see the negative. We're going to see the potential failures instead of the potential opportunities, right? But as soon as we start doing that, we have to force a positive attitude. Yeah, I could fail. But if I fail, I'm going to learn a lot of lessons. And on the other side, I could win and I could succeed. And if I succeed, imagine what could happen. And when you start to have a positive, optimistic attitude, research shows you will be more resilient. And so really what we're doing here is we're trying to create a positive future outcome and an optimistic point of view of where we're headed. And when we have that in our mind, we essentially think that no matter what, we're going to be successful. No matter what we're going to learn, no matter what, the outcome is going to be positive. What happens is supposed to happen. And it's going to be good for me no matter what. And if we think that going into it, we are going to have resilience. Why? Because you don't quit. You never quit if you know that the outcome is going to be positive no matter what. You're like, I don't know how long it's going to take. I know there's going to be struggles, but those struggles and those failures, those are actually to serve me and create lessons. And so I can learn and be better as I go along. So no matter how long it takes, no matter how many failures I have along the way, I know I'm going to win eventually. Well, now we're more resilient because every time we fail, every time we struggle, every time we get hit in the chin, we're going to take it, we're going to learn, and we're going to keep growing. Plain and simple. It's a forced positive attitude sometimes, though. This will become natural. You will become a naturally optimistic person. I'm optimistic by fault. I see situations and I immediately think of what lessons I'm going to learn, what the outcome is going to be, how this is going to be amazing for me, how this is going to benefit the people around me and my company and the people we help. Like, I'm always thinking glass half full. And it's because I had to force it for a long time. Okay, so practical application here. There's a few questions that we're going to finish with, and then we're going to move into standards. Okay, so this is obviously a longer podcast, but I think it serves really well at the beginning of this year. And standards is a little bit shorter than the identity aspect. So the first practical application is you need to answer the question: who do you desire to be or become? Define the version of yourself that you want to be, know you can be, or are when you're at your best. Because research on individuals using motor imagery training has shown that using MIT, motor imagery training, produces greater outcomes and levels of achievement compared to the groups who do not use MIT. So I actually did a research review on this, and this is basically the placebo effect, but it's essentially seeing your success before it happens. So they've done this on athletes where these athletes will not train for like 8 weeks in the off season, but they'll be forced to meditate and visualize themselves lifting the weights and doing the plyometrics and getting stronger. And then when they come back in the gym, they literally get stronger. And those who don't do it in the control group literally get weaker temporarily, because obviously if you don't train for 8 weeks, that's what happens. People who visualize their success have vision boards and create 5-year plans, they are more likely to be successful. Why? Because they visualize the outcome. They become more optimistic, and they're more likely to accomplish that. Because they're going to shift their habits, their attitudes, their actions, their decisions, the risks they take based on the outcome they know they're supposed to get to, because that's their vision. So it's really important for you to define the vision. So again, who do you desire to become or be? And you got to define the version of yourself that you want to be, know you can be, or are when you're at your best. And maybe when you're at your best, that's a little preview of the person you can become. Think of that and then create a bigger version of it. That's the person you want to be and become, and you need to visualize that, write it out, and get very, very hyper-focused on that. The second question is the identity statements. I am blank. I am a blank who blanks. You can keep building on this, right? You have to start doing this. I would suggest doing this on a daily basis. And again, we have at tailoredcoachingmethod.shop, you can get a journal that's already in there. It's printed in there. And you can get a journal and you can just write this out. Grab a Choose Hard hat while you're at it. And then I think you'll get a free shirt too, because if you spend over $50, you get a free tailored shirt. But besides the point, there's an I am statement in that journal. That's why I want you to focus on this. But examples of this for myself. I am a successful entrepreneur. I am a successful entrepreneur who maintains balance in his life, because balance is important to me too. I am a successful entrepreneur who maintains balance in his life and stays in great shape year round. I am a successful entrepreneur who is present with his family and stays in great shape year round while maintaining balance in all areas of my life. So I've expanded on it. And again, this is like a snowball effect. You might start with one, I am blank. That's fine. But you're going to start building it. Get hyper specific. And the more I say I am a successful entrepreneur who is present with his family and stays in great shape year round while maintaining balance in all areas of my life, the more likely I am to do it, because it's anchored in my brain and my decisions are dictated by that identity statement. And if I have an identity statement that's strong and specific, I begin to shape who I am and how I show up, which develops the traits of the successful entrepreneur who is present with his family and is in great shape year round while maintaining balance with his family. That is the key to identity statements. And then the last part of this practical application for the identity is some specific questions to leave with. I'll put these in the description of the podcast too, so you have them, but write this down if you're sitting at your journal. If you're driving or in the gym, don't worry. I'll put these in the show notes. Question number 1. Who do the people who love and care about you say you are? In actual writing, you would say, about me, say I am. Who do the people who love and care about me say I am? Really think about that. Your eulogy. You die tomorrow, your eulogy, you're watching above them. What do they say? You're out of town and your family is all in the neighborhood, and then somebody else, a new person moves into the neighborhood, they're in the cul-de-sac, and say, I haven't met your husband or your wife yet. What is she or he like? What would they say? What would I still have to offer the world if I lost my job along with my most valuable skills and abilities? You're a singer and you get in a car accident and you can't talk, you can't speak, you lose your vocal cords, your voice is gone, right? You are a guitarist in a band and your hand is gone. I'm a fitness trainer and a coach and do these things, and I get in a car accident, I'm in a wheelchair. Like, who would I still be? What would I still have to offer? This is a really hard question, but it's really, really important for this identity statement. How do others know my worth, and why do they value me? Kind of going back to the first thing, how do others perceive me? It's either aligned with the identity you desire or it's not. And this is not about only caring what other people think, but if the people closest to you think the way you want to show up, then that means that you are very aligned with your purpose and who you want to become. If they don't, you need to course correct. And then the last question, what truths do I believe about who other people are, but have a hard time believing about myself? If I look at somebody, I'm like, man, yeah, but they're just such a patient person. Why do I believe they're a patient person, and I have a hard time believing that I'm a patient person? Find the examples, find the reasons, and change them. And I want to encourage you guys, for the practical application 1, 2, and 3, with these questions at the end, take it very seriously. This will make a huge difference. So that's personal identity, and now we're going to move into standards. So with standard, we have 2 definitions that I like to use. And the first one is a level of quality or attainment. I like that one because it is the level of quality, but really you can look at this as the level you live at, the level you show up at, the level you communicate at, the level you train at. Like your standard for anything is the level of blank you put in. So in my marriage, what is my standard? Right? My standard is to be a husband of blank quality. What is my standard in the gym training? My standard in the gym training is to train with blank quality of effort. Plain and simple, right? Like blank quality of consistency with my diet, blank quality of performance in my workspace or business, whatever it may be. The second definition is an idea or thing used as a measure, norm, or model in comparative evaluations. And I want to highlight norm because truthfully, again, we said the level of quality, right? We can also say it's a metric or a measurement that we want to live up to, essentially, right? But your standard is defined by the norm, right? So, like, for example, if you're a pretty, let's say, on edge person, like you get frantic or anxiety or stressed or mad or anything pretty easily, but every once in a while you're super chill. And you're a great person, and you're really easy to get along with, and everything's kumbaya. What do people know you as? They know you as whatever you are normally, which is why the norm is really good for your standard. And this is why it's hard for a lot of people, is because we can be amazing sometimes, but to be pretty damn good all the time is very difficult, which is why we need to define what pretty damn good is so that we have a bar, we have a measurement, we have a standard, a certain quality we're trying to live up to and live up at so that everything we do leads to the type of person we want to become. So the person you are or desire to be, does, is, and acts blank. Your identity is a representation of what you do, how you are, and the way you act. And your identity equals your standards. So again, the person you are, the identity that we just covered, or the person you become, because that's who you desire to be, does blank, is blank, and acts blank, because your identity is a representation of what you do, how you are, and the way you act. So the easiest way, and although again, we don't want to put too much merit into what other people think, because it's not all about what other people think, but I'd have you consider that your identity personally, it's the easiest way to determine and define your own identity is to really see how other people view you. Because however you show up around people most of the time, that is a display of your standards of living, and your standards of living equate to your identity. So your self-respect is going to be similar to the respect you gain of others. Right? This is why, like, there's a difference between being liked and being respected. Because people cannot like your decisions, but if they respect you, you are going to like yourself more because you respect yourself more. So I really want you to think about this. Your identity is the most important thing, especially going into this year. Who will you become? How will you show up? What will you accomplish? How will you end the year? That's going to be determined and defined by the standards you set for yourself and live your day-to-day life at. So your standards equal your identity. What traits do you need in order to become the version you desire? I like to think of this like a video game, right? Because if we think of like a video game, like a fighting game or whatever, or like even like old school, like Mario. Mario is too small to break through a wall or to get over a brick wall or fight the like weird plant thing that comes out of the pipe and like tries to eat him, Well, what does he do? Well, he eats a mushroom and he becomes big because now he's a bigger version of himself. So what did he need? He needed size, right? Okay, now let's transition that same kind of thought process and storyline to day-to-day life. You want to become a better parent. What do you need? What skills do you need? You're not going to eat a mushroom and become bigger. You're going to become more patient, more empathetic, more thoughtful, more caring. There's traits that you need to possess to become the person you want to become, which is why your identity is based on standards. The standards are the level, the measurement at which you want to live, but how you show up and how you live is a series of traits and characteristics that meet the standards you set for yourself that create the identity you desire to have. Think about that again. I'm going to say it again. The traits and characteristics are what you need to stack and determine, because that's how you want to show up day to day. And as you do those things, it sets the standard of how you live and how you operate day to day. And that determines the identity you have. So, what traits do you need in order to become the version you desire? Write these down. Write down what you need, right? You need discipline. Challenge yourself more often. You need ambition. Try to dream more, visualize more, future cast, journal, think about the future. Risk tolerant. You need to be better at taking risks. Well, take small risks. Do little things first, then take some bigger ones eventually. You want more self-control? Well, avoid temptation. You cannot develop self-control if you never put yourself around it. If you're never around things that you need to control yourself from, you will never develop the skill and the characteristic in the trait of self-control. Self-control is literally the act of controlling yourself from temptation, be that food or porn or cheating or whatever it is. But if you can't go and be around the thing that you need to avoid, you can't develop self-control. And that doesn't mean to do this like shotgun approach and it's like, hey, you're just recovering from being an alcoholic, go to the bar, practice self-control. No, don't do that. That is stupid. You got to be smart with this, but you get the point. Reliability, maybe that's a trait. Well, make more commitments and start with small ones. This was something for me that was really big because I found myself doubting myself and people around me doubting because I would say yes to everything and then I couldn't act on them. And I would belittle it because I'm like, it's a small thing. My wife, hey, are you going to take out the garbage? It's garbage day. Yep, I got it before I leave. And then I'd forget and I'd be like, it's not a big deal. Right? I'd get in my truck and I'd start pulling out and I see it. I'm like, oh, well, it's not a big deal. I'll be able to do it before I get home. Right? Because if garbage man comes tomorrow, whatever. No, okay, then again, going back to the cannot, do not, will, won't, just say, I will do it after work or I won't do it. Because the more I say, yep, I got it, and then I don't, even if it's subconscious, my wife would begin to doubt my word. And then I doubt my word. And the last thing I want is a lack of confidence from her to me. I don't want her to lack confidence in me, right? And belief. And so if you want to be a reliable person, make micro commitments. Take out the damn trash and do that a bunch of times and start making bigger commitments. Equanimity, which is the ability to stay calm in a chaotic situation. Meditate more often to maintain stillness. You want resilience as a trait. Endure difficulty with faith. And faith just means blind belief. It means that you believe in something without seeing it. That's what the definition of faith is. And so if you want resilience, you have to embark in journeys and not know for a fact the outcome, but believe that it'll work out. But these are just examples, right? And just like a video game, you need to get blank to level up and beat the boss. Well, the boss is success in life. And if you want to beat success in life, as in conquer it and accomplish it, then you need to develop these traits. That's the standards that you need to acquire and build up and stack so that you can create the identity you're after. And so here's some really simple exercises that you can do that I think will help tremendously. The first one, write down who someone is that you respect greatly. Write their first and last name. This is important because you want details. The more details you have, the more visually stimulating it is, and the more you can actually create clarity and kind of anchor to it, right? We want a lot of specificity with these things. So first and last name, who is somebody that you respect to a great amount? Why? List out what it is about them that you respect. Why do you respect them? List these out. I don't care if it's 3 things or 30 things. I promise you that 99.9% of them, if not 100%, are going to be characteristics. You respect somebody because they accomplished something. They went through something difficult. Okay, ask yourself, why is that true? Why do you respect them? Because they went through that difficult thing. Well, they had to have determination and faith. And they were so patient. And they had such an optimistic point of view despite all this negative things happening. Okay, those are all traits. They have standards. We're doing this because I want you to see that how you respect others and why you respect others is because of the identity they have, sometimes unknowingly, which is an accumulation of the standards they have for themselves. And you admire those standards. And you would have more self-respect if you developed the same standards or your own standards to live by, because your identity would grow and become greater, and your identity being greater leads to more self-respect. So who is somebody you respect and why do you respect them? What is it about them? Vision. This is where we can start to break down the different aspects of what determines your standards and your values, right? And I'm not going to go into the detail and depth of mine in the companies like I did in the membership workshop, but I'm just going to tell you that you need to create a vision for yourself in your life. Like, what is your ideal world? Because your ideal world, your vision for the world, a better world, is going to create a purpose inside of you that helps fuel your identity, right? I know that my vision is to raise the standard of how the average person lives their lives, specifically through transforming their body and then therefore their mind. So if I know that my vision for a better world and a better environment around me is a bunch of people who live at a higher standard across all domains, and they accomplish that by transforming their physique, they challenge their body and their mind through fitness and nutrition, well, then I have a great purpose for my life. And I can create an identity around the standards I need to have in order to influence people to help me create that vision. You need to do this for yourself too. And it doesn't have to be business focused. It can be family focused. It could be faith focused. It could be personally focused. It could be anything. But your identity is who that is, right? The identity is the person that helps accomplish that vision. So in my ideal world, which is my vision, is to raise the standard of how the average person lives their life by transforming their body and their mind. So what is my identity? My identity is the descriptive nature of who I am and who I need to be to accomplish that. Here it is. I wrote it down. A disciplined person who serves others by helping them become more than what they believe they could be through physical transformations that develop life-changing traits and characteristics, which in turn inspires other everyday people to try harder and get better too. Because I know I can't change the world by changing one person in that small scenario. However, if I change the lives of one person through a transformation, and that gets me in front of others to change, and then they get in front of others that are inspired to change. And even if those people end up hiring some other company, but they see a transformation and they live their life at a higher standard because they transform their body and their mind through a physical transformation, I win. My vision is becoming real. You have to have a vision for an ideal world, and your life has to be centered around accomplishing that. And then you can create an identity based on that. And so your standards then become a set of practices that define how you live and how you serve others. These values are an outpouring of who you are, right? This is basically a descriptive list that builds up your identity and helps you contribute to your vision, right? So whatever your standards are, again, it could be, extreme ownership. It could be grace. It could be discipline. It could be, it could also be different things. Like one of mine is positive influence. I will only ever be a positive addition to somebody's life. So if I'm involved with somebody, I have to be a positive influence or I'm going to be out of their life, meaning I'm going to remove myself. If I cannot be a positive influence in your life because you won't allow me to, or I literally can't, I'm going to remove myself because my standard is to only be a positive influence, right? I even have WWJD, what would Jesus do? Because I will always act in accordance of what Jesus would do. And if I would, if he was in my shoes. And I do that because it's doing the right thing. So whether you're religious or not doesn't matter. It's just, I will always do the right thing. If that's my standard, then in a difficult situation when I don't want to do the right thing, I can lean back on my standards and be like, this is who I am as a person. I have to, right? Serve is one of mine. I will serve others by helping them when they are in need and being a guide in any situation that I have an ability to be a leader in. And that means like when I'm at the store, when I'm on the street, when I'm in work, when I'm doing whatever, if there is a point where I can either serve and positively influence somebody, or I can avoid the situation, not serve and not be a positive addition to their life, I know what my decision is because I'm choosing that. I'm putting my effort into these handful of things because they matter to me in my vision and my identity and who I want to be known as. So role play these things. Go through these questions. Your standards dictate how you respond and react to all situations in life, and how you respond will dictate your results, plain and simple. So that is how we wrap up this podcast, personal identity and standards. I hope this influences you in a positive way because that's one of my standards, but also because I think this is so important. I think this is one of the most important things. This is something that I presented in our membership site. So again, if you want to check that out, you can just look in the description of this podcast. We always have a link there to the Tailored Coaching Collective. It is our membership site. It's a portal. You get 2 of these a month. There's a ton of value in there. And even if not, I hope this just changes you. I hope you listen back to it. I hope you take notes. I hope you write these questions down. You really answer these things, because if you do the work that I am suggesting you do throughout this podcast today, and you start to shape your personal identity in 2025 by setting new standards for yourself, I promise you your life will transform before your eyes this year, and you will accomplish more than you ever knew or hoped or imagined you could. I know that for a fact because I've watched it happen to me personally, and I've watched it happen to people in my life by taking this kind of stuff seriously. Thank you so much for listening. I'll catch you next time.